I would say one of them might be fuel. Both sides are having trouble a little bit with fuel, getting fuel to the front lines, primarily diesel fuel. And that's because both sides have struck fuel depots deep within their respective territories. So that is something that was confirmed to me while I was there recently, that both sides are having this same difficulty. And they're hoping to get more support from the West with fuel supplies, so that way they can rectify this issue and continue to push as we get further into winter and get more into offensive operations before the spring comes, if they can get a little more assistance with fuel so they can push forward and take advantage of the fuel shortages that Russia is currently facing now as well, especially with these sanctions, that Russia's not able to get the funds that they need to repair some of their fuel depots and also purchase fuel from other neighboring countries that are helping them, places like China, for example.
Let's go back to your own plans. Do you plan to return to Ukraine? And if so, what will you focus on during your next trip?
Absolutely. I plan to return sometime next year. I hope to spend a little bit more time there. However, it's something that it's usually depending on funds that are available. Everything I do now is primarily based off of donations. It's stuff that for anyone that wants to get involved, they could easily find me and follow me. If you Google me, Matthew Sampson Ukraine, it's the best way to get in contact with me and follow what I'm doing. Matthew Sampson Ukraine on the entire Google page. The first thing that pops up is usually my website. I have a fundraiser page there that can help me travel and gives me more opportunities to spend time in Ukraine, spend more time at the front lines, spend more time talking to Congress, going to Washington, all different things like this. But so far, I have found that it has been very effective to spend time in Ukraine prior to going to Washington and talk to Congress for the Ukraine Action Summits. And these summits happen twice a year. The next one is probably going to be scheduled around April timeframe, somewhere around there. And I'd like to spend more time in Ukraine. However, just like anything else with this war, nothing is free. A lot of it's very expensive. And even this last trip was very expensive. And I was able to find only a few donors that were able to help out with just a small portion of the travel costs and all the other various expenses to make this happen. So the more support I'm able to get, the more often I can go to Ukraine and be the American voice to really help solidify the support of this war of freedom and sovereignty against the evil and tyranny of the Russian Federation. I am very excited to return as soon as I possibly can to continue being this voice for freedom as we continue to fight.
How would you assess NATO's readiness in case Russia escalates its threats in Europe?
I believe every day NATO is becoming more and more ready. I know that the American administration for many years now has been pushing the European NATO to increase their defense spending in order to specifically avoid the issue that we're facing right now of an aggressor pushing into NATO areas. We know that Putin has specifically been pushing drones into NATO. Putin has sent numerous drones into Poland. Putin has said he wants to invade Poland. So Putin has said that he wants to invade NATO already. He has said this numerous times. So with the American administrations over the last few years pushing the European NATOs to increase their defense spending, they have been doing that slowly. That's a huge positive. And we know from the front lines that more and more support is coming from the European Union countries, which is a huge positive both for the NATO countries and for the front lines. So that's great news all the way around. And it is showing Russia that this is a united front, that Russia is not only fighting Ukraine, Russia is fighting NATO. And for those that are intelligent enough over there to understand this, they're able to see that they're fighting really a world war already, and not just one country that they feel that they can just overpower with brute force. And that is something that is a huge benefit to Ukraine especially, but also to all the Western nations, that want to really force Russia to just go back home and stay on their own soil.
Based on your experience on the front line, are there any mistakes or misunderstanding in how the West supports Ukraine that you think should be addressed?
I would say one of the biggest ones is training. I am working with one of my senators now to see if we're able to create an additional and new Ukrainian-American joint training program to help out with just basic training. We do this very well in the West, and especially in the United States. As a U.S. Marine, we have a very unique training regimen with our Marine Corps boot camp, and we're in talks of seeing if we can adapt something like that for the Ukrainian recruits. And I'm hoping that something like this can come together and be an asset for not just Ukraine, but to really strengthen the overall military there, the cultural and the mindset there. And this will be a huge strengthening aspect for all of the European Union, with Ukraine really being the first line of defense against the Russian aggressor. And this is something that part of our advocacy is full security guarantees for Ukrainian sovereignty. In the past, we had the Budapest Memorandum, which was really a piece of paper that numerous countries signed, that if Ukraine gives up their nuclear weapons, that Ukraine won't be invaded by Russia. We know that that piece of paper did not provide security guarantees to Ukraine, unfortunately. However, if we provide Ukraine with the tools and resources to have a strong and robust military, then that is really the best way to have full sovereignty and security guarantees for the Ukrainian nation and the Ukrainian people. And having great, fantastic training, I believe, is the best stepping stone and foundation for that. So that is something that I'm in the works on. I'm hoping that it's something that the two governments, the Ukrainian government and American governments, can work together to really make happen and to slowly transform for the better the Ukrainian military, especially for the recruits. And I think that would also increase the amount of volunteer recruits in the Ukrainian military. And I'm very excited to get all that together, and I hope it works out very well.
And finally, there has been a lot of discussions these days about potential peace plans coming from the US. From your perspective, under what circumstances could Russia realistically consider ending the war? Do you see any real willingness from Russian side, given the ongoing attacks on civilians in Ukraine?
I'd say from the Russian side that they're in a very challenging position, and I believe the only way that they will really agree to a peace plan is with extreme force from the West. Stuff like these additional sanctions that were imposed on them last month, the sanctions that we've been pushing at Congress to increase pressure on the Russian Federation is really the only way to force Russia to the negotiating table. To bring up the kids again, it's one of the issues that we brought up, that there be no peace plan agreement until the children are returned home, that the children should not be part of the negotiation whatsoever. You cannot weaponize children. So the Ukrainian children, all of them need to be returned home before there's any peace agreements. We do know already that the sanctions that came out of the White House last month are negatively affecting Russia in a huge, substantial way. That's a huge positive for us, and it's forcing Russia a little bit closer to the negotiating table. We have advocated for additional sanctions to come out of Congress that will also force Russia one step closer again to the negotiating table. And I believe that that's really going to be the only way that we can get Russia to talk about peace anytime in the near future, is if they really have no other financial options to continue to keep their economy from completely collapsing, and to avoid what we saw in 1991 of their country collapsing. So in 1991, the Soviet Union collapsed. Right now we have the Russian Federation. And if Russia does not want that to collapse and fall apart completely, then I believe that their only other option is to discuss an actual peace plan. And I think they will only do that once they feel more pressure from the West with these various sanctions.